I'm Seth Meyers. This is Late Night. We hope you're doing well. And now, if you don't mind, we are going to get to the news. The National Prayer Breakfast was held this morning in Washington, and attendees included President Trump and singer Jelly Roll. Just wish I could have been there when Trump found out it was the singer Jelly Roll. Well, this breakfast sucks. During his remarks this morning at the National Prayer Breakfast, President Trump said that he has done a lot for religion and added, quote, "Religion is back, now hotter than ever before." Well, he definitely has a lot more people saying, "Jesus Christ." President Trump also said he was a very good student, but added, "Nobody would think so." Yeah, that's not a brag. I'm very smart, but you wouldn't know it from the way I act and talk and think. During his remarks this morning at the National Prayer Breakfast, President Trump said that the soldiers in Washington, D.C., quote, "beat the crap out of criminals." Man, if that's the way he talks at the prayer breakfast, I can't imagine what he said at the National Violence Breakfast. President Trump also said this morning that he bombed ISIS fighters on Christmas Day. It's the worst birthday present Jesus has gotten since the frankincense. I got nervous about saying frankincense, so I said worth. President Trump also discussed the 2024 election and added, quote, "I had to win. I needed it for my own ego." Whoa, sounds like someone's finally in therapy. His next speech is going to start with, "I need this applause because my daddy didn't love me." President Trump held an event tonight to unveil a new website where consumers can purchase prescription drugs at a reduced cost. It's called Canada.com. That's right, President Trump unveiled his new Trump RX website and Centers for Medicare, with Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz. Man, if you had told me 25 years ago that I could buy drugs online from a guy named Oz, I would have said, I'm doing that right now. During an Oval Office signing ceremony this week, Senator Lindsey Graham described President Trump's second term as, quote, "Reagan plus." Plus what? Ambien? Vice President J.D. Vance arrived today in Italy for the Olympic Games, and who better to stand there and watch America go downhill? The Wall Street Journal published an article last week about Cracker Barrel's business travel policies, which include requiring employees to eat at one of the chain's locations for all or the majority of their meals. I guess that way they don't have to worry about paying their pensions. In hindsight, I understand how that joke went. Yeah, you know, I don't know what I thought. Yeah, woo! Yeah, we got him! And finally, the LGBTQ dating app Grindr announced this week that it will increase privacy tools for athletes in the Olympic Village in Italy. Great news for the biathletes. That was a monologue, everybody. Got a great job for you tonight. He's a terrific musician and actor. His new album, Sunday Best, drops this Friday. Our friend Nick Jonas is back on the show. And he is a very funny comedian and actor. You know from Would It Kill You to Laugh, Search Party, and the film Eternity. He is currently performing in What We Did Before Our Moth Days at the Greenwich House Theater in New York. John Early is also joining us. Thrilled to see John every time he's here. Before we get to all that, Donald Trump berated CNN anchor Caitlin Collins for not smiling while she asked a question about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and made fun of praying at the National Prayer Breakfast. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Trump spoke at the National Prayer Breakfast this morning, which is supposed to be a normal, nonpartisan event. But of course, Donald Trump is incapable of being normal. I mean, he's also incapable of being nonpartisan, incapable of praying, and I bet he's bad at breakfast, too. I know it's the most important meal of the day, but everything about Donald Trump screams, I'm gonna wait and have a big lunch. That's why he's such a bloated sourpuss every day at 4. He just crushed a massive lunch. And then he's like, I'm pretty full, might take a nap. And they're like, well, Mr. President, you have a full schedule. And then he's like, why? And then you're like, because you're the president. And he's like, ugh. But still, it would be nice if he could be normal. At this point, it would be shocking if Trump showed up to a public event wearing a suit that fits and a tie that was an appropriate length, with his hair combed neatly to the side and his skin a normal human color, and got through a full 90-minute speech without mentioning how much he hates windmills or toilets that don't flush. I would say, it, show's over, let's go home. In fact, I think that's what would finally drive me insane. You know, an ironic twist of fate. I would start showing up here with my hair a mess, slathered in orange makeup, and I'd be all grumpy. Because I was the one who just had a big lunch. I'd be like, welcome to late night, let's get to the news. The news, we're doing the news. Oh. The point is, Trump couldn't help himself. He just had to show up to the National Prayer Breakfast and make it weird.
You know, Mike Johnson's a very religious person, and he does not hide it. He'll say to me sometimes at lunch, sir, may we pray? I say, excuse me? We're having lunch.
We're having lunch, the most important meal of the day. Tied with dinner. You're making fun of someone for praying at a prayer breakfast? Did you also burn him for eating breakfast? He ordered an omelet, and I said, are you sure about that, Mike? Just FYI, that came out of a chicken's butthole. Trump just revealed at a prayer breakfast that he is unfamiliar with the concept of praying before a meal. Now, I'm not religious at all, and even I know that if I sit down with someone who is, they might want to say grace first. And when they do, I know it would be rude to say, mind if you wait until after lunch? And I'm gone, weirdo. In fact, not only is Johnson cool with Trump's prayer jokes, he's also cool with Trump shrugging off the Epstein scandal.
On the Epstein files, you talked about Democrats who were in there. Elon Musk was also in there, and so was your Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and correspondence that he had with him. Did you read those new files that were published by the Department of Justice?
I didn't. I have a lot of things I'm doing, you know, a lot of things I'm doing. I don't know. You mentioned two names. I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're fine. Otherwise, it would have been major headlines.
Oh, there were. I mean, maybe they weren't major headlines on Fox News or Godless Weirdos Weekly or whatever you read, but they were major headlines. Lutnick and Musk both claim to have kept their distance from Epstein, but the emails show the opposite.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick arranged a visit to Epstein's island with his wife and children in 2012, after which Epstein passed along this message to Lutnick. Nice seeing you.
In a number of emails, Musk and Epstein seem to be discussing plans for Musk to visit Epstein's private island in the Caribbean. In one 2012 email, Musk asking, what day night will be the wildest party on your island?
All right, first of all, if Elon Musk ever asks, when's the wildest party at your place, the answer is, oh man, you just missed it. And now I'm tearing my house down and moving, sorry. My guess is Elon showing up to a party immediately kills the vibe. Dude probably shows up in his white Morpheus outfit, and when someone says, how should we cut up the cocaine? Elon says, I have an idea.
Turns off.
And that's when everyone else says, you know what, I think I'm gonna head out. Yeah, no, I know we're on a private island, but I think I'm just gonna swim for it. But Trump seems unconcerned. The exchange continued, and Trump suggested maybe it's time we all just move on.
A lot of women who are survivors of Epstein's are unhappy with those redactions that came out. Some of them, entire witness interviews are totally blacked out. Do you think that they should be more transparent?
They thought they released too much. You know, I heard that, and you're telling me something else. No. I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else, really. You know, now that nothing came out about me, other than there was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
Oh, we should get on to something else? Yeah, man, you're right. All these wealthy and powerful people were emailing nonstop with a guy who had a private sex island, including a dental chair and a hatch that led directly to the sea. It's boring. Seriously, what do you mean get on to something else? Do you have something more important you want to talk about? Like the 24 photos you posted about the bathroom you renovated in the White House? That's real. This guy posted multiple times about a bathroom he remodeled in the White House, but he thinks we all need to move on from the international sex trafficking ring run by his former wingman. The New York Times says there are more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, his Mar-a-Lago club, and other related words and phrases. Trump's name is mentioned more often in these files than my name is mentioned in the credits of my own show. It's 3 times. I have a writer credit, a producer credit, and it also says wardrobe provided by clothes Seth's wife won't let him keep at home. She says I have too many plaid shirts, so instead of wearing them at home, I have to wear them on the show. I mean, look at that. It's like Mumford had way more sons than you thought. But CNN's Caitlin Collins admirably pressed on for an answer about the Epstein scandal, and that's when Trump got testy.
But what would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten justice?
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face.
I'm asking you about survivors of Jeffrey Epstein,
You know why
Mr.
you're not
President.
smiling?
Because she's not a sociopath? She's asking you about notorious sex trafficking ring that the world's wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to. It's not her fault you're in a bad mood because the grilled cheese you ate for lunch is bumping up against the hamburger and your belly full of Diet Coke. Now to you, a normal person watching this at home, you might think the president telling a female reporter to smile while she asks a question about a sex trafficker might make him look like a dick. But what if you asked another dick? What would they think of that exchange?
There was a moment in the Oval Office, I wasn't even in there, but I was in the West Wing, and somebody sent me where he was talking to Caitlin Collins, who's the CNN anchor. She's asking a question, and the president says, "Why don't you ever smile?"
Yeah.
And it's actually like so perceptive.
You think telling a woman to smile more is perceptive? Then let me introduce you to New York's many construction workers. They're a veritable oracle of Delphi's. You know, I'm also a little perceptive now and then, and I do perceive J.D. Vance as the wormy little chud he is. Dude has to pretend Trump is some sort of world historical thinker who comes up with genius insights that would never occur to mere mortals like us. Let's listen to some of the most brilliant observations from our perceptive president.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. They say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay? You know, you have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnets.
2 Corinthians 3:17. That's the whole ball game.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge. Our army manned the airport. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. You know how you spell us, right? You spell us, U.S. I just picked that up. Has anyone ever thought of that? I just picked that up. A couple of days I'm reading, and it said us. And I said, you know, if you think about it, us equals U.S.
You know, it's true. He's the first person to ever realize that us is spelled U.S. He's so perceptive. These guys spent years pretending they cared about the Epstein scandal, and now they're calling Trump perceptive because he told a reporter to smile while she asked questions about that scandal. They lied. They don't care. All they care about is their own power. If you ask Trump why his name appears so often in the Epstein files, he'll say,
Excuse me? We're having lunch.
This has been A Closer Look.